Hey folks, welcome to the Friday Livewrite. I think we're going to be finishing up the book today. Make sure you are checking out the Kickstarter for King Leopard. It's a chance to get, all right, $1,700. We funded within 24 hours, so now it's just trying to maximize the sale. Still 19 signed hardbacks left, so hopefully we can sell all of those. That'll be nice. So please do check that out. It's 540 pages. That's what it's at right now. I toyed with the idea for this of actually including additional books within it, like having Al Shafalda and Crown of Sight inside this book as well, like at the beginning or at the end or something. But I don't know. Maybe I will. I'll get some feedback. I think I can go up to like 690 or something in this format. I'm pushing the limits actually of what you can do with regular print on demand kind of stuff. And that's when this goes wide with Amazon, 550 is like the max pages. So you can shrink the type down to like squeeze more in, or you can just not have it all in the same book. Making like an 800 page paperback is quite difficult. Right. You got to be really pushing volume. That's why it's called mass market. So, yeah. Let's check that out. All right. Let's see where we're at. Here's the book. Okay. We're in the denouement, the like falling action. We had one little extra tag of action. We had a little battle outside the gates, because we had to tie up a loose end, which was Lord Musil. Now we have him tied up. Now that that's tied up, we need to just kind of say what's happening at the end, right? It's like the journey home kind of thing, but they're already home. So, pretty easy to do this, right? Alfred and Victoria need to get married. So that needs to happen. So they need to get married, obviously, and then we need to have a couple of other things happen too. We need to figure out what's going to happen to Aethelready. Is he going to get married? I'm thinking that he's going to become the Lord of the Tower of Dusk. Right? He'll get Musil's vassal state. Right? He'll get the fief. So he'll end up landed, right? And he'll have a set of golden armor to melt down. So he'll get basically what he wants. What's Victoria's sister's name? I'm trying to remember what I named her. Charity. So, Charity, I picked that name because Aethelready's weakness is like he's for want of money, right? And because he's for want of money, he's going to be a little bit overly concerned about the monetary thing, right? He's gonna want to have some money. So in this case, it's like, I think it'd be kind of cool if we gave him Charity, like if Charity was going to be his wife, but there'll be some kind of argument there about it, right? So I don't know. I have an idea for that, and I think it would be rather fun to do it. We have obviously like funerals, but there's no body for the king and queen, so we have to erect like a monument to them. And we got to get that done. I'm here. You may begin. What's up, guys? I'm glad you're liking the sounds. You can, of course, subscribe to the music only channel to hear my weird music all the time. I like it when I write. I actually listen to different stuff when I'm not streaming. I like to put my own stuff on because it's mine. Look, you can see my push here. It's not in my office right now. It's outside. Because I'm kind of, as I'm approaching 100 improvisations, I'm thinking about new and different things that I can do. So I'll probably do like an iwi track. I want to do some more synth-only tracks. And then for number 100, I have a really big thing planned, but I'm going to need to do a couple practice sessions to lead up to it. Basically, some minimalism with tempo changes, a la Steve Reich, but mixed in with like this ambient soundscape stuff that I do and all the looping. So I have an idea for what to do for number 100, but I want to plan it out and do some practice before I get there, you know. Depending on your lifestyle, a wife is a poor investment. It could be, depending on your circumstances, the only investment that matters. Right? Especially if you have a view to the self that extends beyond your death. Right? The furtherment of your family, your tribe. A wife is pretty critical. So yes, investing all your money into a wife that produces offspring is probably the only investment that really matters. If you die and leave your money to nobody, and nobody remembers you, and your name dies and your blood is stricken from the earth, like Cain, what does that mean for you? You know? But I do think that Aethelred is also a hopeless romantic, right? That's why he loved charity. So he pretended to be someone he wasn't, right? So he's a romantic person. Like calling a wife a financial burden reeks of like not knowing what a wife is. And it's okay to not get married. If you have that view, like a woman's just a financial burden, it's like marriage is probably not for you. You can go have a hedonistic lifestyle. You have that liberty, right? And then what happens to your stuff when you die, you can decide, and that's how some people want to be, right? There's also men of the cloth. I don't believe people who are celibate are looking at celibacy as like, isn't this better than having the financial burden of a wife, right? They take a vow of poverty if they're a monk or something. I think it's more that that's a different or higher calling than marriage, you know? So I think for Aethelred, like the point of the riches for Aethelred was really to make charity like him. Right? He pretended to be someone he wasn't. But the conflict there is like, do you like me for who I am? Or now are you just interested in me because I have a set of golden armor? So I have fabulous riches and I have this new fief. There's some significant drama that's there, but I want to sum it up in an interesting way, right? You want to kind of point towards that, which is we'd want to flip the script. Now all this would happen after the story, obviously, but we'd want to flip the script so that Charity is pursuing Aethelred. So that would be like the sequel. You know, is Taylor Swift to pay all the psyop? It's all right here. I think so. I gotta see what this looks like on stream. Okay, that's interesting. Like the colors. Oh, that's weird. I don't know if it shows up. No, well, a little bit. Watch. I pop this out. Colors normal. Pop it in. Colors weird. Normal. Weird. I don't know what the deal is there. But this window, when it's playing videos, they're like a weird color. I don't know what that's about. Very interesting. Let's close some of that out. What happens here? All right. Okay. Taylor Swift is interesting because I don't know anyone who listens to Taylor Swift. I can't recall a single song of hers. I don't know anyone else who can recall a single song of hers, and yet she's somehow the biggest artist how is that possible, right? Can you think of, like, if I'm like Michael Jackson, people are like, boom, 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 I just heard 20 songs in my head. You think of Prince, you probably heard 5 songs in your head by Prince, right? If I say Metallica, you heard a couple Metallica songs. But like Taylor Swift, I can't think of a single. I remember the lyrics, just like, we're never, ever, ever getting back together, but I don't know what it sounds like. I know I've heard it because somebody was like, oh, this is a Taylor Swift song. I'm like, is it? It doesn't sound, because I thought she was like a country music artist from like the MySpace days. Like, oh, it doesn't sound like her. I'm like, okay. Yeah. I don't know anyone who has won as many awards as she has. What's the map behind you? Okay, this is the map from Needle Ash. It's just a big print of it. All my fantasy books have a big map in them. Not a big map. They have a map in them. Right. I love maps. I like the Tolkien maps. So I kind of do them in that style. I have my own style. I have some videos on how I do it to kind of let people figure out how they might like to do it, you know? Where's the map in this? Did I somehow print this without a map? What is wrong with... There it is. So it's this... Here. I just made a big print of it with like some blue and red letters that I think look cool. So it's the map from Needle Ash. There's a map in all of my books. One of the things you get with the... There'll be a map for King Leopard, just of that area. And then there'll be for the King Leopard Kickstarter, I'm going to have a digital map. And the reason it's digital is because it'll be super high resolution and gigantic. So for me to make a physical map for you, like even if I printed it at like this size, which is like, I don't know, 24 by 36 maybe, it would be like the map. It'd be like looking at a map smaller than in the book, but taking up the entire canvas. And I could do that. Like, I really toyed with it, but I couldn't figure out how to deliver it as like a convenient, like ship it conveniently to people in a roll without charging so much money that no one would want it. You know, because dude, your costs can get eaten up by shipping so quick. You know, someone's like, "Hey, can you ship to the UK?" I'm like, "It'll be $50." Right? $50 to ship to the UK because of all of these things that get stuck up in it. Now you could try to use a third-party company to help you ship it to try to save money, but it actually doesn't save that much money unless you're really moving things in bulk. Like if there was 100 customers in UK, then it might make sense, but because there's like 2 people who want to order the book, the shipping's just not worth it, right? If I told you, yeah, it's going to be $50. I checked it to Greece, and it would be $112 after all the import duties and everything to get it into Greece. $112 US dollars. That's 3 times the value of the book just to get it across the border into Greece to where somebody could get it after going, you know, the customs and all that kind of crap. I'm like, what the hell? But I understand now why Amazon, as far as its print-on-demand stuff, does things the way they do. Because if you print it in Europe, you can avoid that. So, like, if it's printed and shipped in Europe, in the EU, you can get it for $30 or 30 euros. If it's printed in the US and shipped into the EU, it's like $120 because of all the tariffs and stuff that they put on everything. This is something that a lot of people don't realize. And we're like, I can't believe Trump is putting up all these tariffs. It's like, it's been very imbalanced for a long time, right? Is that other countries put massive tariffs on American goods, and we have like no tariffs on foreign goods. And there's an economic benefit to not having any tariffs, which is that like things are just cheaper, right? So things are cheaper for everyone here, but it does create trade imbalances, and it makes it so that your companies domestically can't really operate internationally very well. They can't make stuff here and send it abroad. Only other countries get to do that. You have to make stuff here and sell it here. So you have to compete with the people that are going abroad and not having as many, like, you know, environmental regulations and things like that. That's why things are made in China, is that they don't give a shit about the environment. And they don't care about labor. They can pay people $2 an hour, and they can dump their waste into the river and into the China Sea, and they don't give a shit. So that's not really fair to American workers who are like, well, we have to pay people a wage, and then we also have to not poison the water and kill everybody. Well, I don't want my water poisoned. I like some environmental regulations. I don't want giant clouds of soot raining down on me. Nobody wants that. So we have environmental regulations to make sure that things are cleaner. And yes, that does make things more expensive. So we pay the cost of the clean environment through higher cost of goods. But then you have a problem where, manufacturing disappears because it's harder to compete with slave labor plus environmental destruction abroad. You know what I mean? Lots of actors and musicians are bigger in social media than they are in their art form. That's why Zendaya in every movie's got 184 million followers on Instagram. You know, Hardwick Bento said this, that they cast her because she has 184 million Instagram followers, which is like insane to me. I can't believe that, but like, it makes sense now. It's no longer the movie that makes the star, but they're hiring people who are already popular to put butts in the seats for movies. Even if someone like Zendaya, who's a terrible actress and is, in my opinion, she's ugly. I think she's ugly looking. There's a happy medium with tariffs. Reciprocal tariffs make sense. Yeah. And so this is a thing. People are like, I can't believe we're going to put tariffs on Canadian goods. It's like, have you ever tried to do business in Canada? I could tell like you've never dealt with the horror of all kinds of weird extra taxes and tariffs to go into Canada. Although it's possible to ship things into Canada for cheaply right now because of NAFTA. Yeah, so Alter, you make the perfect point. Competing with China is competing with literal slave labor, and that's impossible to compete with. It's not worth competing with. So Sam Hyde said that. Okay, so yeah, it's correct. And I talked about this when I'm like, who pays tariffs? I made a video about this forever ago. I'm like, the consumer always pays. And then I'm like, but you may want some, and here's why. And I gave a bunch of reasons. But people never listened to the second half of the video because they wanted to hear and get upset about the very obvious argument that
sometimes a man must overcompensate for his freshness.
What is this? We've got an ad going. Where's this ad? Oh, here we go. Yeah. Yeah, so this is like sometimes you may want to, you may want to have trade restrictions or you may want to have tariffs. One of them is to ensure that you have a domestic industry for something that is military critical. So this can be a lot of things, but you need a domestic steel industry because you make planes and tanks out of steel. If you have no domestic steel industry, you are at a strategic disadvantage in the case of a serious war. You need domestic production of electronics. Sorry, like I know we ship a lot of stuff in from China, but we need a more significant and more robust domestic electronics industry because it's of strategic importance, especially now with AI and things like that. What we really need is we need NVIDIA cards to be made in Texas, not in Taiwan. You know, Texas Instruments needs to be making computer chips in Texas, like of old. My grandpa actually was an engineer for Texas Instruments. I have a retirement, or not like a 20 years of employment watch that they gave him, an Omega, with like the moon on the back because that's the watch the astronauts took to the moon. Yeah, but there's a bunch of reasons. Another one is like if they're using actual slave labor and it's an inhuman labor condition. Buying those goods is material cooperation with evil. Like this is basic like Catholic moral teaching and moral reasoning. And I'm using the word Catholic because Catholics think about this a lot. It's nothing against Protestants. So don't do this as an exclusive thing, right? Protestants often do think this way, but Catholics are kind of trained to think this way. It's like, how am I cooperating with evil? To what degree am I? If they are being evil to their workers, then buying their product is cooperating. And under what circumstances is it moral to buy the product? If you have no other way to buy the product and you need it, then you have to buy slave labor, right? It's actually excusable. But a lot of kind of libertarian thinkers just don't think that way. They're not really thinking that way. They're like, well, people were poor in the 19th century and they're just going through that phase. And it's like, yeah, and I can see that argument. I definitely can see that argument. But, we have factories that have nets to keep people from committing suicide in China. that seems like a bit much. But if they're doing something immoral, then obviously you don't want to materially cooperate with them. And from a strategic position as a country, if you can prevent their economy from growing due to you, then there's a strategic advantage to imposing those tariffs, right? You have strategic advantage. So tariffs have moral and strategic value. So it's what you're going to do with them. Now, Donald Trump might be more gung-ho for tariffs than I am, but certainly I'm going to listen to him when he is going to give a reasoning for a certain tariff or a place. And we've already seen that in terms of its strategic use as a negotiating tactic, it's already been very effective. It's already been very effective because one of the things that happens is people without the tariffs coming in, they get very dependent on the American economy because the American economy is very rich and full of people that want to buy cheap goods. So if you make it so that they can't compete with the domestic companies because of tariffs, then they're in trouble, right? And the smaller the economy is, the more vulnerable it is to economic pressure. That's the other thing, So a country that has only a few exports, it's very vulnerable. A country that is very self-sufficient like Russia, it's very robust. It's very difficult to economically punish Russia because Russia can produce everything it needs internally. Same thing with the United States. Someone's like, well, we're going to impose sanctions on the United States. It's like, okay, we can literally make everything here. It's like, but your consumers will pay 5% more for some good that we provide. It's like, they'll pay it. They'll figure out a way to pay it. We did it with the oil embargo. We survived the oil embargo, right? We were an oil importing country, and then we figured it out. So, That's why if you poll American farmers about tariffs, they're gung-ho because they understand that the short-term pain means a better market for them later. So the other thing about supporting certain... Now, I'm going to be balanced with tariffs, now that we're talking politics, right? A good example is sugar tariffs. So I'm going to use sugar tariffs as sort of the let's think about the other side here, because we impose tariffs on sugar in order to prop up the American sugar beet industry. And the end result is people have diabetes. What? Wait. How does taxing sugar cause people to have diabetes? Well, sugar becomes more expensive when, as a world commodity, it's incredibly cheap. And so the result is, rather than using cheap sugarcane to sweeten sodas and other foods, we use corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, which doesn't interact with our insulin system the way that table sugar does. Remember, table sugar is a combination of sucrose is a combination of a glucose and a fructose, right? Stuck together. High fructose, that fructose doesn't trigger the same kind of insulin response. So I can't even consume corn syrup in any quantity. It gives me horrible gut disturbance, right? It makes my stomach physically hurt. So I won't touch corn syrup. If corn syrup's in something, I'm not going to eat it at all. But that's why we have corn syrup in sodas. It's why the soda tastes worse. So consumers get a worse product as a result of the tariffs. Is there a strategic value to sugar? Well, now that we know how to make corn syrup, the answer is probably no. If we ended up in a war where we can no longer import sugar from Brazil, we can make corn syrup out of the corn. No big deal. We know how to do it. Same thing with corn oil, right? What if we can't import olive oil? We can make corn oil, right? It's not a big deal. But yeah, so I'm not saying you nuke all the domestic industry, but that's one example of we don't grow sugarcane here. It's kind of like coffee, right? So do you need to have tariffs on coffee to help American coffee farmers? It's not really a crop we grow here. So that's not really so sugarcane, we really shouldn't tax that. Shouldn't have big import tariffs, right? Come on. People should be able to buy cheap sugar. Sugar should be cheap, and then our soda will taste better. Instead of having to pay a premium for what's actually a cheaper product abroad, we should be able to have good tasting soda and good tasting candy if we want it. And in fact, people might eat less of it because of the way that insulin and ghrelin interact. A portion of our obesity epidemic is the result of sugar tariffs. Not all of it, but a portion. It wouldn't fix it. but it might help a little bit. And the soda might taste better. So you might be inclined to buy Coca-Cola and drink it occasionally. And you might feel good drinking that one half a can, drinking like a little 8-ounce can of Coca-Cola and be happy with that and not have a stomach ache. And that's a good treat, you know? Yeah, their sugar cane can be grown here in Texas too, but it's not a major cash crop the way it is in the tropics, in actual subtropical regions. And Louisiana, East Texas, Florida, we're kind of getting to kind of a tropical environment because of the Gulf of America, right? My grandpa used to have sugar cane growing outside of his house, but it's not really a cash crop. And there's reasons for that. It grows much better elsewhere. So, but globally, it's a very cheap thing. And most of the sugar that we get in the United States is from sugar beets, not cane, where it's very cheap. It just grows like crazy in Brazil. You can cut it, you know, it's easy to farm in somewhere like Brazil or Nicaragua. You know, it'd be nice if in Nicaragua they could grow sugarcane instead of cocaine. Instead of coca, the delicious coca. But yeah, anyway, that's my thing on tariffs is like, you know, tariffs. Think about them rather than listening to like the libertarians for right now who just don't like Trump. Think about tariffs as a holistic thing. Like, what can you do with them? What's the value of them? Is there strategic value? Is there moral value? And then that's going to determine what you do with it. So I'm more pragmatic about that kind of thing because I understand that the whole point of the United States is that we have a common defense. So a common market, yes, common defense is a big one. If there were no states in the world, you wouldn't need tariffs, right? But we have states. And so you have to deal with how to deal with other states, right? Admittedly, in Europe, we have insane taxes on sugar here, even though it is in everything, which causes everything to be so expensive. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know there's other interesting. Every time I learn more about, food in Europe, I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was like illegal. Like you can't, American beer, I don't think can be called beer, which I like because I don't like American beer. I think it's shit. Like Coors and Budweiser. It can be, I think it has to be sold as malt liquor. It's like a malt liquor beverage. Actual beer has to be made from barley. It can't be rice piss water with like a handful of hops per bushel or whatever, right? So yeah, the other thing about growing sugarcane is like it requires a very particular climate. You can grow it in the southeast here in the United States. Like you can grow it in Louisiana, you can grow it here in East Texas, you can grow it in Florida, and it's not that hard to grow. But it also requires a lot of water, You guys probably can figure it out. It's kind of like, there's some other crops that are like that. It's like, why don't we grow? But tobacco grows great here too. Tobacco was our export crop. I think we still are a tobacco exporting country, which is wild to think about. I thought about growing my own tobacco. That is something that I have really toyed with in my mind over the years, is growing my own tobacco. What the hell am I playing in this song? Oh, it's just like super delay. I'm just playing with like a crazy amount of delay on the... Yeah, it's just like a bunch of delay. I have like 3 delays going on. Here's another ad. Why don't you own an apartment building? I don't own apartment buildings because I don't just have the capital to buy them. It's like, take out a mortgage to buy them. It's like, okay. Yeah. What happens when you can't cover the mortgage? That's the problem when a lot of people are like, you need to be buying property and renting it out, and that rent will cover the mortgage. It's like, what happens when you can't cover the mortgage? You're going to go ass up. So what's going to happen? Real estate's great if you can cover the mortgage for a long time, like you have a lot of cash for that. You can order tobacco seeds online. So I've thought about doing that. You grow it, you can dry it, and then make pipe tobacco out of it. Rather than rolling it into cigarettes or something like that, you can roll it for pipe tobacco. You put it in these big rolls and you cut it up. I looked the whole thing up and I got really excited to do it. I think I ordered some tobacco seeds at one point, but I just never grew. I just never grew the crops. I ended up moving. Now I'm in a place where I could probably grow tobacco, but my wife would probably not be okay with it. She's like, why are you growing tobacco? Like, this is, you're being crunchy in the wrong direction. Can we grow our own bell peppers? Let's grow some zucchinis. Let's grow some baccy. You're allowed to do it. What happens when your renters can't pay rent and you can't evict them? Exactly. You're going to have to cover the mortgage and you're going to have to pay for an eviction process. You know what I mean? People hate property owners. Property owners are taking a lot of risk by renting a property too, you know. Yeah, being in real estate is great if you know what you're doing. And a lot of people know what they're doing, but you still have to have a lot of capital. You know, it's not just because you can get a bank loan to buy the property and then you can rent it and try to pay that bank loan with it, doesn't mean that it's not without risks. People look at that as like, the thing I've set up will just continue forever. It's like, what if, great, you buy commercial real estate. What if that area of commercial real estate you've invested in goes downhill and you can't cover the rent, right? You can't ask the same amount in rent. You can rent it out for less. That's the only option. And then you have to cover the difference between the rent and the mortgage on it. I'm calling it a mortgage, right? But you can get a loan or be part of an investment group that does this stuff. What happens? Well, you have to cover the difference somehow. So where's that liquidity coming from? You're going to have to sell something else to cover that liquidity. I have some neighbors who own properties like that, right? And their whole thing was like, they never bought it with debt, right? They just, it's like, if you're buying it with debt, because the debt is a risk. As soon as you can't cover the debt, you lose it. Not only do you lose the property, when you lose the property, you basically lose everything you've put into it up until that point. So you can risk losing all of it. You risk losing your down payment and everything, all the effort that you've put, all the money that you've put maintaining the property, that's down the toilet, right? You don't want to get foreclosed or lose your property or have to short sell it and at a loss. You know, there's a lot of problems that come with, with real estate. So real estate, people get excited about it because they see it on shows like the house flipper shows, but it's a lot of work, you know. High value consumables, tobacco, moonshine, and ammo. It's all for me, beer and tobacco. All right, let's get to writing here. I've joked around with you guys enough. Turn on this light a little bit. There we go. Much more comfortable. Yeah. How valuable would Taylor Swift be in the post-apocalypse? Well, as a mating partner, low. As a productive member, low. Entertainment, I don't know. Yeah, this is an interesting thing to think about because Stephen King did this in The Stand, right? It's like one of the characters was a like a hit pop star, but after the apocalypse, he's nobody. He's nothing. Nobody cares. They just remember, oh, I remember that you came out with that song. I remember that song. That's cool. It's worthless, you know. If someone asked you to write a new Turbo Man story, would you do it? I don't know what Turbo Man is. So I probably wouldn't. All right. More ads. All right. What do you think of Billy Joel? I like Billy Joel's music. I'm not a big Billy Joel fan. I think in interviews he sounds really silly, but I think his music's good. I think his music's pretty good. Yeah, kind of like Bruce Springsteen. I wouldn't call myself a Bruce Springsteen fan, but I think his music's good. He's good at what he does. So he has some good songs. Yeah. I agree, music sounds different as time goes by. Albums I listened to as a teen don't appeal to me as much now, 30 years later. For example, I used to be super into anything Kiss related. Now I only have like a handful of the records I really like. Yeah, sometimes tastes change and sometimes things stick around. So that filtering for me is like, I used to really like every Metallica album, and now there's like 3 that I really like, you know? It just, sometimes I'll go back and re-listen to them, but I rarely re-listen to a lot of those albums. Some things have stuck around, right? I still really like certain Dream Theater albums from the 90s that I listened to a long time ago. Certain Iron Maiden albums, Dio albums, certain Black Sabbath albums and stuff. They're just really gonna, I just still really like them. I'll still put them on and love every minute of when I listen to them, but not a lot of stuff. And sometimes I think it's good. I go back and I'll listen to something from the 90s, like Bush. I did a little review of one of Bush's records. It was good to go back and listen to it kind of with fresh ears, and kind of see, oh yeah, there's still a lot of good stuff here. I just wasn't interested in hearing it over and over again anymore once I owned more CDs than this. Same thing with Soundgarden, right? I went back and listened to Super Unknown. It's a pretty good album. I don't think it's Soundgarden's best. In fact, I think it's, there's like 3 or 4 albums that I like better than Super Unknown, but it's a good album and I see why a lot of people liked it. I think Down on the Upside was like way better, but you know, that filtering changes things, you know. I don't listen to as much Motorhead. I don't listen to a lot of things as much anymore. Why am I getting medical spa ads? I don't know. Could have to do with changing IPs. Someone looked at that on your IP. Who knows? Not Musil. Manfred. Cat loves your music. Awesome. How long do you pause between finishing one book and starting the next? It depends. So what I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna do for this one is that I'm gonna put this one in the metaphorical drawer. In other words, I'm gonna put it away. I'm gonna make a bunch of revision notes. Then we'll put it away. Then I'm gonna work on all of the file preparation, and I'll do a lot of that live for the King Leper hardback, since that funded. Draw the maps. I'll draw the maps for this, and I'll draw the maps for King Leper. Then we will come back and we will edit it after we've had a little break. In fact, I might go straight into another story. So I'll do the file prep because that has to get done, and I think people might be interested in seeing some of that. And then after that, we will go into another story, either finishing up one that I've left half finished or just doing a new story. We'll go straight into it. So I tend to not rest too much between these, but sometimes I take time off, or I have to go and edit and do the publishing phase of a book. And that gives me a little time to breathe with the story and think about new ideas and come at things with fresh eyes. I think it's really good to have a little bit of time space between when you finish a first draft and when you revise it, because that you'll forget some of your intent, and so then you'll read it and be like, I don't know what I meant here. I need to fix this, right? So you'll be able to recognize the flaws in your writing a little bit if you give it a little bit more space. So that's probably what I'll do for this one. Think we'll get another gaming stream again? Yeah, eventually. I mean, we'll see. Right now, I'm really focusing on like promoting the Kickstarter, and so that's just where my focus is right now. Okay, but yeah, I'll probably do gaming again. right, we're coming up to the end here. 90125, yeah. Tony Kai returned. I like 90125 a lot. I actually think Trevor Rabin's a great guitar player. So 90125's might be my favorite Yes album, even though it's like their most popular and a lot of Yes fans don't like it. They're like, I like Close to the Edge. Like, yeah, I like Close to the Edge too. I like the early 70s stuff too. Yeah, it's great. But 90125 has just every song is a banger. Like there's not a single bad track on that album, and every song on the album is like single quality. It's so good. And the production, it was produced by Trevor Horn, the lead singer from Drama. And he was the producer for Seal, and they call him like the sound of the 80s. Boy, that production is good. It is really sharp and just a great produced album. I like 90125. All right, I think that's it. That's the book. That's it. That's this song. That's this book. Right now it's about 116,000 words. On revision it'll probably grow because there's a couple things I'm going to add at the beginning. But that's it. I think that's a good ending. What we can do is go back and begin, look at our first line. It's a good first line, I think, and a good ending to the book. So, yeah. I like that. All right. Yeah, that's it. Okay. That's it, guys. Yeah, this little ambient rock track is not what I like for this. This is melted ice cream. Anyway, you can listen to it though. It's got the timing's a little off because of the lag when I recorded it, but I'll work on that as I work on a live amplifier setup. So, how much outlining do you do? I did some for this. I did quite a bit actually at the beginning of this. And I don't do. Some people do like scene by scene stuff, and that's great if that is what you want to do. But I just do a big one of like, here's the event sequence, here's what's happening in order, and then I write that. And then if I feel the inclination to change that, I do. If I want to add, I don't think of the details, like all the details ahead of time. And I feel like, to me, stories really pop out with special moments as well as structure, so I try to leave a lot of room for those special moments when I'm feeling inspired, like I really want to do something cool. So yeah. Yeah, lights down for the bill. That's good. I get it. Yeah. So anyway, I do a little bit of outlining, and I keep have all the major events worked out, and then once those are worked out, then I just start writing, and I write from beginning to end. It's pretty standard. I did it live, so you can see how I do it. All of these chapter names I started doing like halfway through this to keep track of what's happening in this chapter, and I'll come up with better names when we do the revision. So the revision will come later. We're going to take a break from this, and we'll do... I'll show you guys all the file preparation that we'll do for the King Leper hardback. It will draw the maps. I'll work on the maps live because I think that would be a pretty fun live stream to chill out and draw maps, So we'll do that, and maybe we'll do some game streams or whatever before the end of the month, and see how well we can do with this Kickstarter. So please do think about backing the Kickstarter. You've watched an entire long novel be written live. So I haven't ever done that before, and I don't know too many other people who've ever done that. I can't think of anyone else. So if there's someone else who's done writing an entire book beginning to end live, let me know. But I don't know if anyone else has done it. How many books did you write before you published one? I don't know. I have to think. So before I published, I think the first book I published was Muramasa. So before I'd written that one, I had written all 3 Moonsong books, plus like 2 extra that I haven't published yet. Those got revised seriously and published later. So that's like 5 books. 4 screenplays. I had written a book when I was 19 that was bad, right? So I guess that's another one. That one was pretty long. Is that it? A bunch of short stories. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't do Eyes in the Walls live. No, I planned it live on a Halloween stream. I started writing it live and then I wrote it off the air because I thought it would be too boring to write stuff live. You know. So there's that. I'll share the music channel again, and then we will peace out of here for tonight. 8 o'clock. I need to eat. I'm feeling hungry. I haven't eaten a full meal today. It's Friday. So I'll figure out something to eat live here. I did write Sorcerer's Blood live. That's the other one I wrote live. That one's a lot shorter. It's like a novella. So this is a really long book. Not a really long book. It's not like a doorstopper. But it's a full-length book. It's as long as The Hobbit, right? It's a good long book. 27 chapters. Fun. I might combine a couple of these or expand them. It'll probably get a little bit longer. 120,000 words probably when I'm done. For all this stuff. So I think that's it. I appreciate everybody coming and hanging out with me. Please do consider backing the campaign. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you all next time.